Hey everybody, welcome to our podcast today. We are excited to have one of our staff members join us today. This is Roseanne Boston. She joined us today.
Yes.
Roseanne is our hospitality director and administrative director. She does a lot of things here around Vertical. And we talk about a very interesting subject today. Talk about Roseanne's going to talk about what it was like and has been like to carry the weight of ADD in your life and where you have found Christ in that so that you don't live under the crushing weight of that.
Yeah.
So we're going to tell a story today. Roseanne's going to tell a story. We're going to ask some questions and talk about this together today because Christ does meet all of us in our places of need.
Yeah.
He meets us in our places of brokenness. And every one of us are born with that need.
Yeah. And something that you have said before is, I don't remember who exactly said it first, but you said it always kind of bugged you that one of these speakers said, and your greatest need and your greatest weakness is where God's going to show himself strongest. And so that's what you need to, make the biggest deal in your life is in your weakest points. And
that's true.
Like,
in our weakness, he is made strong. And that really frustrated me the first time I heard that, that God's going to show himself strong in our greatest weakness. I'm like, no, I want it to be in my strength.
Yeah, exactly.
So, I think that's what we're going to find here in your story today, obviously. And that's true for all of us, whether it's an ADD issue or whether it's some other type of issue in our life. In that place of need and weakness is where he shows himself strongest. So I need to stop talking.
Well, in that disorder, he creates order.
Here we go. Yeah.
It's on now.
Now we're going. Okay. So Roseanne, set us up today so that we have some perspective. Let's talk about who is your family today. Show us or tell us about today who you are, and then we'll go back and start at the beginning. So
okay. Well, today I'm married to Dave. We've been married for almost 17 years.
Let's go.
I know it's crazy how quick time goes. We have 3 boys, 15, 13, and 11.
Nice.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And you work, and he works.
Yes.
And they're schooled, and there's a lot going on.
There's a lot going on. Yeah.
You have multiple positions here at Vertical that demand a lot of your time. You do them all very well. So
thank you.
Let's back up now and talk about growing up.
Yeah.
So what kind of home environment do you grow up in? Are there siblings?
Yeah. So I'm the youngest of 4.
Shout
I have
out
2 brothers.
Youngest.
Yes. Shout out the youngest. That's right. They are the best. I'm the youngest of 4. So I have 2 brothers and a sister. I grew up in a small town, not so small anymore, but grew up in Joshua. And
country.
We had it was country. It was a wonderful upbringing, though. My house was, we grew up in church. We grew up with love. I had 2 very good parents, hardworking parents. My dad is a dental technician. He's retired now.
Wow.
But my mom was a dental assistant. And then she also worked with my dad. They own their own business.
Okay.
So.
And now your family as a whole, though, is largely involved in the medical community.
They are,
right?
Yes. Well, so my parents were in the dental field, and then my sister is a doctor as well. So yeah, yeah. And then my other 2 brothers are in technology.
Okay.
So I mean, my oldest brother, I don't really know what he does, but he works for a large company, worldwide,
something big and important.
Hopefully he's watching and he'll text you.
I know. I'm sorry, Matt.
This is actually what I do.
Sorry, Matt. Wow. I do. You worked very hard, successful.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. So and that's a lot of accomplishment
there
in a
is.
family.
Yeah. Yes. The brother right above me, he's actually started 2 businesses. One of them he's the CTO of.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Very successful. Very proud of all of them.
Okay.
But,
So your mom and dad, obviously great parents then.
Very good. I'm a little partial, but I do think so.
To one of your parents?
To both of them.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
To your parents as opposed to other people's parents.
There you go. I think they're tops.
That's good.
Yeah.
That's good. So this is the family you grow up in, and that's wonderful. Let's fast forward a little bit. Let's get up to early elementary because some things begin to happen at that point in your life. You're going to school, 3rd grade-ish, in there.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what happens at about that time?
So about 3rd grade, I started showing issues in focus, in being able to stay in my seat. There were just so many other things. As my oldest has told me before, the things you are saying are not as cool as the things going on in my head. That was me about that time. So, my mom trying to find a solution.
Yep.
You know, we went to the doctor, and I was diagnosed with ADD, which is attention deficit disorder, inattentive type.
Okay. So you're struggling with being distracted and
test taking was very difficult for me.
Okay. So you're looking around at other kids in the room. What's that like? Is that you feel different, unique, or?
You know, at that age, I don't really remember. I don't really remember that starting at that age. It could have been there, but maybe it was just too long ago.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
So you have this diagnosis, and then what happens next?
So we started on Ritalin.
Okay.
A lower dose of Ritalin, and it seemed to help.
Okay.
You know, it helped to calm those the inability to focus. A test became a little easier.
Okay.
I was able to stay in my seat as the other kids were.
Yeah.
I didn't get quite as distracted.
Okay.
Were you aware of anyone else that was like on Ritalin or anything like that?
Not that I remember.
Yeah. People weren't just like, oh, same here. or
Yeah.
anything like that.
Well, and I didn't tell anybody either.
Okay.
It was kind of like the
Kind of like
secret, I guess.
I do this at home and I come to school and I'm like,
Yes.
how's it going?
Yes.
Cool.
But now I can match them and sit in my seat.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Is there any downside to this? Is there another side maybe that's not as pleasant for you?
Yeah. At that age, because I was at lower doses, there weren't as many side effects at that time. But there's definitely the roller coaster was beginning.
Okay.
Where you would be on a high through the medicine and then you just have a crash. Whether that's through
like you're able to focus, or
you're able to focus,
your mood, or what?
You're able to focus your mood on Ritalin itself. I don't remember it affecting my mood that much. But again, that was so long ago. It's hard for me to remember as a child. But wasn't that long ago, but it was
just
decades.
back in the day. Yeah. Almost decades ago, though. Yeah.
Trying to help you out.
Yeah. Thank you, Brian. But there was definitely a change. Once the medicine falls off, your personality kind of comes back a little bit. But you haven't really eaten. So there's different things at play. In there.
That goes on for a while.
Yes.
And then is that enough, or is there a place where it has to be more, or what?
Once I got into middle school, I think that's about whenever I changed over to Adderall.
Okay.
There were more things I was doing. I was highly active. I was in gymnastics. I was in cheerleading. I was in band. I was in baseball. I was in basketball. And then I was straight A student, except geometry. That was a tough one.
Straight B.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, C stands for credit in that class.
Exactly
Come on.
right.
But
Yeah.
there was a lot of demands on things to do, and I wanted to excel at all of them.
Wow,
Yeah.
that's
and
a
be
lot.
at the level.
I mean, that's just
it was a lot
to begin with.
It was a lot. Yeah.
It's a lot to do.
We were moving all the time.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. I did marching
Achieving.
band. That's about it.
Yes. Now, once I
imagine.
reached high school, I only did cheerleading and marching band.
Wow. Okay. So there's
And
a
then
lot
classes.
happening, and this medication becomes necessary, I'm sure, at some point
Yes.
now, because
And I was much more aware of the need of it.
Okay.
And that I thought I was better because I was able to achieve those kind of things.
So talk about the difference between Ritalin and Adderall. What are we talking about? A major leap in strength?
I think it's just, at that time, it was a greater strength. But I think it was just the big thing.
Okay.
At then. Ritalin was the number one in its time when I was younger, and then Adderall became
It was like,
another
this
one.
is actually the thing.
Yeah.
Side effects?
Adderall, I definitely felt more side effects in my moods. And it wasn't just, prepubescent. There we go. Prepubescent or pubescent. But my moods just were all over the place. I was still happy and joyful, Roseanne, to an extent, but there was a change. And then the food as well. It was, I would go all day. I would drink like a Diet Coke at lunch or have a few fries. And then that would be it until after I got home from gymnastics at 8:00.
Wow.
And then, and not by choice,
crazy.
my mom would send me snacks. She She probably had no idea I wasn't eating.
So medication's wearing off then? Is that what you're saying? Around 8 p.m. and
yes.
Now all of a sudden
you're
appetite,
ravenous, you're
mood,
irritated. When things don't go your way, once your medicine has worn off, it's very frustrating and rattling. So you can't quite.
Yeah, I mean, it's already frustrating enough whenever things don't go your way, but I would imagine
yes, it's
all
heightened.
that much more on top of it, especially if you haven't eaten all day and then you're back to like maybe a more scattered mind kind of thing, and everything just seems to explode, I guess.
Yes.
So would it be fair to say it's kind of like it's been suppressed all during the day, and then when it wears
and you hold
off,
it all in because I still had a personality, but those who know me that I'm very outgoing. I love to talk, and when I'm on it, I'm very quiet.
Wow.
Just kind of keep it all in.
Yeah.
Okay.
So.
Yeah, you were telling us earlier about a date with Dave.
Oh yes. So one of our first dates, I was a senior. So we've gone a long time on Adderall. So we're on one of our first dates, and I'm surprised he called me again because we went to Bennigan's, which I don't even know if they're still in business anymore. Yeah. Anyway, so we went to dinner, and I didn't eat because I wasn't hungry, and I just sat there. This.
Wow.
Yeah, and Dave's not a huge conversationalist. Roseanne, I know it's hard to believe she existed.
Didn't want to hear what's going on in your day and all that kind of stuff.
No.
Yeah.
Roseanne that doesn't say too many words.
Too many words. That's right. That's right. Yeah. And that night there were not many words, and we still laugh about it today. That I'm thankful he called me again.
There you go.
I wouldn't have called me. It was weird.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Dave.
So, are you liking this version of Roseanne?
I did because it was really the only one that I knew was just achieve and do a good job.
And it's like who you wanted to be, I guess.
It was who I wanted to be. Yeah. I took pride in
the things. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I took pride in that I was doing really good. I mean, I was head cheerleader one of the years. I was drum major. Wow. I was succeeding.
I mean, that's big time stuff.
I took pride in what I was doing.
Here's a vulnerable question.
Okay.
I would imagine if you're the last born and you're seeing all these other successful siblings.
Yes.
And now you've got some medication that's helping you focus and achieve.
Yes.
Is there something to that?
Yeah, I think so. And no fault to them that they're naturally successful.
Don't blame them.
Yeah, but seeing that as the youngest, I definitely wanted to reach that point of where they were at.
Yeah.
And that really took more of a toll later in marriage and after I had kids. But at that time, I just wanted to achieve.
This is enabling you to do that.
It did, yeah. And that was the goal. They were doing it. I was going to do it too.
I have to do this.
Yes.
I need to achieve.
Yes, and maybe I'm going to do it better.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So you're able to do that through the medication, even though you've got some crashes with it, even though it's got some side effects.
It does,
okay.
Yeah.
Let's fast forward then. The date with Dave turns out to be profitable, and you get married.
We did get married, yes.
It's good.
Yes.
Let's fast forward. You pregnant.
Yes.
Lucas. With Lucas.
Yes.
What happens then? Because pregnancy and medications.
They do not mix, yeah.
Okay.
So I was not on any medication through pregnancy. I had, right before pregnancy and in the joy and happiness of marriage, I had really tapered off any medicine. I wasn't going to college anymore. So I didn't really have a lot of things I needed to achieve. So I was able to taper off. And then I got pregnant, had Lucas.
Okay.
After 6 or 8 months, after having him, I began another job and kind of felt a push to restart the medication.
Okay. And you do?
And I do, yeah.
Back same dosage pretty much that you had?
I started on a lower dose of Adderall just to kind of, that was just the beginning.
Work on it.
Taper it up, yeah. See if that would help take the edge off of the struggles I was having.
Is there something inside that still has this desire or this push to achieve? Is that driving some things happen at this point or what?
I think it does drive the needing to achieve, but also the self-esteem, tasks to complete. But yeah, I just felt I needed that to be able to be who I was needed to be somewhere else.
Yeah.
Wow. That's an interesting statement. It's good.
And there's there's some anxiety you're trying to overcome here at this point with the medication.
Yes.
Stress, distractions, all of that.
Yes.
Does anybody at any point say, there is help in Jesus for those things? You grew up in a church environment, so there's talk about Jesus.
Oh, yeah. We know Jesus well.
Yeah, you know who he is.
Yes.
You've probably
Paid for my sins.
accepted
he paid
him.
for my sins, yes.
Accepted him by this point,
Yeah.
baptized,
Yes.
and in a Methodist way.
In a Methodist way, yeah, yeah.
But no one ever says, hey, for that striving and longing and that anxiety,
Yes.
Jesus is there to help you in that.
Yeah. I knew he was there, and I knew that he that he had the peace that I needed, but I didn't know that it would fulfill those cracks. And I don't even know if I'd call them cracks. It's more like a crater or a chasm. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's interesting. So you would say that ADD was real for you.
Very much.
It was
Very much.
happening.
And it wasn't just about not being able to focus. Like there were
Right.
so many more things that play into that.
Right.
There's, your emotions, the anxiety, depression. There's obviously the racing thoughts and the inability to think. But there's even where it becomes almost a paralysis or you're not even able to make those steps to do something. So once you're on the medication for a long time, it makes that even worse because self-control is just not something that you're allowing God to teach you. You
Right.
rely on the medicine.
Yeah, like that is me taking self-control. That's
Yes.
me taking my focus.
Yes.
And without that,
I can
I'm not
check it
gonna-
off the box because I took that medicine.
Or
So,
that's medicine helping me have this.
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Not Christ.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah. So in a sense, we said this earlier, it's this conclusion of, okay, something's not right with me.
Yeah.
Medicine makes me normal.
Yes.
Standard of
I need to
The world.
have medication.
Yes.
I can then do and be what I need to do and be.
Yes.
What people
And who-
expect me to do
Thank
and
you.
be.
Yes.
Yeah,
'cause that's-
exactly.
you were saying earlier, yeah, whenever I was on these medications, I was able to achieve what others wanted me to. It's not
Yes.
like I was able to fulfill what God wanted, what God had for me in my
Yes.
life.
Or
Yes.
what you thought you needed to be.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And God was still doing great things
Yeah.
in me
He's-
and ministering to people, but yeah.
Inside, I'm messed up.
Yes. And lost.
Medicine makes me normal.
Yes.
Give me more medicine.
Yes.
Okay. So you continue to take medicine. You have another son,
Yes. Yes.
and this goes on.
And then another son.
And another son. Come on. You eventually go back to a career, though, right?
I did.
Okay.
Yeah.
And that requires attention. Now you've got children, husband, and work. How are you dealing with that amount of activity?
I just upped my dosage.
Okay. All right. Okay.
Yeah.
There you go.
I mean, the talents were there, the gifts that God had given me were there, but I thought, well, I need this on top of it to be able to perform
The
so
way
that I could
you're
blow your
expected to.
expectations. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. So you increase your dosage.
Yes.
You're back on Adderall.
Yes.
It's a lot.
It's a lot. Yeah. At one point, a few years into that career path, I was on 100 milligrams, where I would take extended release in the morning, and then I would take a short acting one in the evening or the afternoon more so. And then I wouldn't sleep. I would stay up and work.
Okay, so you say like 100 milligrams, and what were you on like in high school / at other times and stuff?
In high school, I took a different, because at that time they had then come out with the extended release.
Okay,
And
which is just like
so-
longer lasting.
Longer
you're saying?
lasting, yes, yes.
Wow.
So in high school, I was on more of like a 30 milligram.
Okay. Okay.
So yeah.
So I'm sure at this point it's like, okay, we're doing this.
Oh yeah,
Yeah, you
I
are
was a rock
knocking
star.
it out.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
I am raising 3 boys. I'm married to my husband. I am killing it at work. It's great,
Yes.
right?
Well, that's what people thought.
Yes.
Yes.
But what was going on?
But on the inside, I was crumbling. And once everything wore off, or I was in the quiet of my home, is whenever the emotions would come out. There, it makes you very angry because you haven't dealt with anything. I was hyper focused on the job that I was going to do. And even the doctors who were giving me the dose, I wasn't always open with them about how I was feeling. So in some ways I was. I mean, I went through diagnosis of bipolar. I went through diagnosis of anxiety, depression, which are all things that tie in with the diagnosis of ADD.
Yeah. And the use of the medication. Because
and the use of medication.
Now the roller coaster is getting higher.
Oh, yeah.
The highs are higher and the lows are lower.
Yes. It's like the Texas Giant.
Yeah.
And rickety before they did it. Yeah. It was shaky.
But man, I'm sure you're achieving. You're getting lots of affirmation.
Yes.
You're accomplishing a lot. But you're saying inside, it wasn't happening.
Yeah. Yeah. And it would show in my parenting and in my marriage. But whatever it took to get that mask of success is what I wanted.
Wow. Keep going back to that. There's this sense inside of I have to achieve.
Yes.
I'm striving.
Yes.
So this eventually shows up in some physical issues. It starts to show up for you in your health.
Yeah.
And I'm sure. I mean, you can't run a race for years.
No.
You can't run a race for months or weeks.
Yeah.
Eventually, you
rest
have
is
to
required.
stop.
You do. Yeah.
And you need rest. And what did you find whenever? Did you get to a place where you realized this is too much. I can't do this pace.
Well, I eventually, whenever I went through some of the health issues that happened, I ended up having to get off the medications. So that kind of started that roller coaster. And in that, I ended up losing my job because I kept getting sick.
Wow.
So that was quite crushing. I mean, they were very nice about it, but I had to
where you were achieving and finding your worth.
Yes.
Like, look, people think I'm something around here. Now it's just,
it was gone.
and so now you're at home.
Yes.
And like you said earlier, like whenever you're in the silence of your home, it was like, this is not good.
And it was a silence, but it was loud.
Yeah.
It was loud.
Because I'm sure now the suppression has been taken off, the lid is off, and now real emotions are starting to show up.
Now
again.
I have to actually deal with real life instead of covering it up with the hyper focus.
Wow.
So what is that like? What are those emotions? What's happening?
Very angry, very short-tempered, frustrated. Again, in my household, people outside, fake it till you make it was my line, not faith it till you make it.
Yeah.
There was faith in here and head knowledge of it, but not heart knowledge.
No one on the outside would have known.
Nobody would have known. No.
Were you going to the church at the time, or?
We were not. We were not. And that was kind of the point that I got to of I've got to get back to church.
Yeah.
And still, is there any voice, is there anyone that's saying to you, Jesus can meet you right here in this and free you from this?
No. I mean, if they were, I didn't hear them.
Right.
I didn't hear them.
Yeah.
I mean,
not to put blame on anybody else out there, but
I mean,
you're
I know,
not turning to Christ.
No.
And seeing that you see that he's your savior, but the connection between that and the reality of my world's in chaos, my mind's in chaos, my health is in chaos, and knowing that he can free you there, that's not happening for you.
It's not happening. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. And I knew people were praying for me behind the scenes. Like I always say, most of the successes in my life, like my marriage and things like that, are probably due to my mother's prayers because I know she's praying for me.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. Even though she didn't even know the full extent of this.
No.
Is that true?
I would say that's true. Yeah. She probably knew the most because I would say she's my best friend, but not to the extent of what was only God knew what the turmoil that I was in inside.
Yeah, because with the need to achieve comes also a need to not let anybody know where you're hurting.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
That's just.
Yeah. Pride was something I did not want to lay down for other people.
Yeah. So you got to keep up the front.
Yes.
You got to keep running.
Yes.
Get back up and run.
Yes.
Roseanne. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Whew. Okay. So this reaches a point of where it's just too much for you as you kind of led down this path here of something needs to break. I've got to get, you at least know I got to get back to church.
I knew the answer was God.
Yeah.
I knew that was where I needed to go, but I just couldn't find
Didn't
my
know
way.
how or where.
Almost like a paralysis about it.
Yes.
You're like, wow.
And a fear of,
like,
I knew it was going to take work to get better. Adderall, any of the medication, because I took a slew of different medications.
Wow.
I knew that those weren't the answer, but that was where I turned, and it was easy.
Yeah, exactly.
And it was easy, and I found relief. But in my mind, I didn't realize the simplicity of the gospel. And I think that's something so many people don't believe it is.
Right.
Yeah.
Could it really be this easy?
Yeah. And it's like, okay, well, if I go to church, then I'll have to do X, Y, Z, blah, 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 and all this kind of stuff. And maybe one day, if God would love me, then I would maybe be better.
And what if they see the real me?
Yeah.
What if they see that I'm broken and I'm not this smiley, happy person?
Yeah.
Wow.
Are they going to love me?
Yeah.
Wow.
You can't let down your guard. You can't let them see you sweat. You can't let them see what's going on.
Yes.
Because I've got to achieve. And if I go to church, I got to achieve there.
Yes.
And I can't.
Yes.
So yeah, I get it. But something happens that is a turning point for you.
Yes.
Talk about that.
So I wasn't in the 4th of July parade. The boys were playing baseball. They were in the 4th of July parade. So we were sitting there watching the parade, and I hear Vertical's Float coming down the road, and they're doing a rap song, which my kids are young. They still like rap today, but especially then I'm like, this is a Christian rap. And I start elbowing Dave. I'm like, are you hearing this? And so y'all come down the path, and somebody hands me a card. I wish I could remember who it was.
Yeah.
They hand me a card, and the series is Seeing Red. And I turned to Dave and I said, we've got to go to this church on Sunday.
Yeah. That's awesome.
Yeah. Seeing that card and the face on it was like this, which is how I felt inside. Just that moment even changed me. It's like he sees me.
Wow. That's awesome.
It was
awesome.
just in a card was life changing.
Yeah.
And do you want to explain what Seeing Red was?
Yeah. So we were going through a series at the time on how to deal with anger in our life, how to be free from explosive anger. So Seeing Red was that idea, because when you get angry, obviously you kind of picture that idea of someone seeing red. That's all they can see.
Yes.
And this is where you were.
It was.
And this is like 2018, right? Yes. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you come to the church,
Yeah.
and not to glory in Vertical, that's not the point here, but God begins to speak to you.
Oh, he does. Even in the first sermon, it was, again, he sees me. Everything you said was like, Roseanne, I'm talking to you.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Dave wasn't up here coming and talking to Dave.
He might have. No, but even
he had come
him.
by 2 weeks ago and
He
said,
did.
we're going to be sitting at this point in the
There
parade.
you go.
No,
Yes. Yes.
But God
even
moves.
he fell in love with here. And
Yeah.
to
Wow.
me, not only were you speaking to me, but when he was on board, I knew we were home.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So God is the one who's speaking to you during this time.
Yeah.
What is it that is moving in you at this point? What is it that he's doing that's hitting at a different level all of a sudden for you?
Well, it was like he opened me up to finally, and I say finally with like a finally, feel his calmness and his peace, which I know I had experienced at times.
Yeah.
I mean, I remember breaking down to him and falling on my knees, and he would fill me with that. But then I would just pick up everything I just laid down.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so that peace would go away because I'm going to do it myself.
Yeah. Because, I mean, you grew up, I'm sure children's church, youth group, going to church, all that kind of stuff, all growing up. And so it's not like, oh, wow, this is the first time I've ever heard the gospel or the first time I've ever really gone to church or anything. But this is like,
I mean, I even taught Bible studies in middle school.
Yeah.
So
Wow.
it was not
Yeah.
new information.
achieving, I guess you could say.
Achieving,
Yeah.
yes. I was going to be the star Christian, athlete, student, everything.
Yeah.
Wow. So you're at this place of desperation and need.
Yeah.
And in that place, God meets you.
Oh, he met me. And it's beautiful when I think about it. I can just remember crying every worship, and not the pretty cries. Like you know the cries I'm talking about. Yeah. Mascara down the face.
Yeah.
It's just yes.
That's awesome.
And this is where a word that you use a lot, I think, comes into play, because you talk about often identity
Yes.
and God showing you your real identity in Him. So talk about that for a moment, because you had an idea of what your identity was to be growing up.
Yeah. What the expectations were on you.
And what the world had said, this is who you are. This is the labels I've given you.
Yeah.
And find joy in that.
Yeah, and you believed it.
I did. Yeah.
Again, no fault to
And
people
Jesus
around
loves
you.
you right over here.
Yeah.
Here's your labels. Jesus loves you.
It's a side thing in case you can't make it much.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
But into this striving and pressure and expectation and demands that you have believed and walked in, Jesus meets you and says, in effect, I want to put words in your mouth here, but I am the one who has done all the striving for you. It's time for you to let this go. This is where Jesus meets you, right? And a new identity comes alive for you. What is that like up against striving and don't tell anyone, achieve, make everybody else happy, don't upset anybody? What is it like to receive this new identity in Christ?
Well, it was incredible. I mean, it's hard to put words to it. And it was a process for him
this didn't just happen in one 30-minute message.
Yeah, you didn't come up and go, hey, you know what? I'm giving it all up and I'm totally different. Thanks.
Yeah. No, it was a process. And it's almost like he had to chip it away little by little. I mean, I feel like the scales fell from my eyes in that first Sunday. Yeah. But then he began working, chipping away the stone. The stone of my heart.
Yeah. And we're not talking about hours or days. We're talking about not years. Even weeks, but months and years.
Yes.
Yeah, because we're some 5 years past that.
5 years ago, yeah.
And you're different today. But But those 5 years were important and they were a process.
They were. And so much growth. So much growth in those times. But it was baby steps. At times, I didn't even realize the changes he was making in me until I looked back and thought, who was that woman?
Wow.
Yeah. It's amazing.
So during that time, are you still taking medications?
There were times I would try to fall back onto medications, not generally Adderall, but Vyvanse, other ones like that. But it would only last a few days because I would realize this is not the path I need to go down. I knew that the freedom was greater in Christ. Was I still striving? Yes. That was one that took me the longest to break free of.
Wow. So kind of the big reveal here. Are you taking any medication today?
I'm not.
Wow.
Yeah. I haven't taken any medication in probably 2 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
What is that like now? Like 2 years of no medication compared, like would you ever have imagined?
No, I thought I was going to be on medication my entire life.
Yeah. Wow.
I never thought that I would have freedom. I never thought that I would be a highly functioning, successful, brilliant person through Christ.
Let's go.
Love it.
I thought I would always be ADD.
Yeah.
And I held comfort to that because there are beautiful things in that brilliant mind.
Yeah.
I can multitask like nobody's business. And I'm very creative. There's so many positives in the gifts that God has given me to that. But we get so hung up in the negatives that's where you find the turmoil.
So what do you feel like you have been freed from in Christ then?
The biggest thing for me is the racing thoughts. I mean, the list could go on. I don't want to say that's the biggest thing, but we'll start with the racing thoughts.
Okay. Now you're not talking about just
there's a lot of
I need to go to the store, I need to pick up the boys, I need to go home and cook a meal, I need to do this at work. Are you talking about that?
No. It would be you start thinking about that list, but there's 400 other thoughts in your head that generally go negative of you may have all these things to do, but you can't complete it.
Yeah.
You're such a failure. Like maybe if you would have gotten up earlier, or maybe if you would have done this or that, or maybe if you would have done whatever it is.
Yes.
And that it's so loud that you then become unable to even perform those tasks.
Yes. Yeah.
So then you just confirmed you're a failure.
Yes. Wow. Yeah. It's thoughts like, see, you didn't do that right. Boy, you sure could have done this better.
Yes.
Well, why in the world did you do that?
Yes.
It's one thing to have a mind that is multitasking and brilliant. Yes. That's a gift from God.
It is a gift.
So, but a voice added to that tells you you're a failure and incapable and therefore unloved and unworthy.
Yes.
That's different.
It is.
Yes.
It is. And that's one thing I had to become aware of the enemy's tricks. And then I had to take that thought captive and say, this is not God speaking to me. This is not Christ within me.
good.
So becoming aware of that was huge. And then the freedom and the confidence that I would find listening to God's voice and knowing this is not who he created you to be. This is not the voice you are to be hearing.
Yeah.
Listen to the quiet whisper and find the peace and calm in that.
Yeah.
And to know that you have been created by God. You are not an evolutionary mass.
Yeah.
You are not a failure.
Yeah.
You have been redeemed in Christ. You are not messed up. You have been wisely made.
Yes.
And filled with the Spirit, used now by God. Yeah, that's affirming, that's empowering, strengthening. And I think you'd say, because this is what we see, is that God uses you now in even multiplied more ways than you could have imagined.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
You're
he has blown my mind.
You're accomplishing much.
Yes.
And not because you have added a chemical to
or regimen of pills.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you have a lot of tasks today. You're still, teenage boys now.
Yes.
Come on now.
Yes.
Shout out Driven Youth.
That's right.
That's right.
They love Driven.
And homeschooling.
Yes.
And married to Dave.
Yes.
Managing your home.
Yeah.
Carrying a workload here.
Yeah.
You lead a women's Bible study. You work with the hospitality ministry that has a lot of people in it, a lot of relationships, a lot of people you're keeping up with. How in the world do you have that many tasks that you're doing today?
And no meds.
How do you do all of that?
Only by the grace of God. When I start getting overwhelmed by the task, because I love making lists.
Yeah.
I love making lists
too.
of things that I need to get done.
Yep.
But as I look at it, the old me would look at it and get overwhelmed and know you can't complete this. So why start it? And when I start to, if that old man starts coming back, I stop and I pray about it. Lord, this is not from you. I know what you want me to complete today. I know you have put me in the exact spot you want me to be, the job, the family, the house, everything.
So good. Yeah.
Guide me in your steps and acknowledging your strength within me. And then the list completes itself.
Wow.
When I allowed him to actually work through me and I find the confidence in that, it's amazing. So yeah, through him is the only way. And that's not just church talk.
No, that's real, because as you mentioned, you've learned to separate the voices.
Yeah.
We all have internal voices that are speaking to us.
Yes.
But now they're not just a mass that are just shouting at you.
Yes.
You are able to pick out voice that is of God and what is not.
Yeah.
That's, Jesus said, my sheep hear my voice.
Yes.
And they listen and they follow. So
yes.
Talk about that for a moment, because I know that's part of what's happening here is you've learned to shut down some voices.
Yeah.
How do you do that?
Ooh, that's a good question. How do I shut down the voices? I listen for the quiet. I listen for what is in his word. Like, did he tell me this? Is this true to him? Then that's what I go forward and listen to.
Yeah. And if it's not consistent with that,
then I don't listen to it.
You have learned.
Oh, I have learned. And it took me a long time, because people have told me, even when people back in the day would tell me positive things, it was kind of like rubber. It was just bounce off. I loved hearing it, but that doesn't fill the cracks. That doesn't fill the cracks. It only began being filled and glued back together and healed into something beautiful once I heard who he was telling me I was.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then through that, the calmness, the voices just aren't as intense. So I've also learned to open up to people. If I'm, and that was a big thing. I did everything alone.
Wow.
And
because the people in your life, key people in your life, probably did not know the extent of what was happening inside.
No. And what Dave knew, he was kind of like, what's happening?
Yeah.
Where's my wife?
Yeah.
So if I ever travel down that path, I do have certain people that I can be like, hey, I'm struggling today. Will you pray for me? And, like that, it will change, because they're people that I know they're going to be pray for me and love me.
And remind you of truth.
And remind me of truth.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they pour it back into me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And, I'm sure like you've said in your earlier life, you had like big expectations for yourself, and that you feel like others, the environment you grew up in and all that kind of stuff. And like what you're saying, a compliment of like, hey, you're doing great and all that stuff. It's like, cool. One drop in this huge, vast thing that couldn't really ever be filled. Like you're just continually going. Yeah. And it sounds like, what you're saying is you did all of the things, and to some degree it was like, okay, yes, I'm filled up some, but like it wasn't until you said, all right, I need to be filled with God. And then whenever there's a compliment given on top of that, it's like, hey, I'm already filled. Yes. Thank you for that. And I don't have to feel like I'm not measuring up, even though you may say a cool little thanks for going, or thanks for doing what you're doing. But I just think it's so like, it's a beautiful thing to see that there's life inside, and it's not just like, well, I need to be searching for what's next all the time, And now when people give me a compliment, I accept it, and I praise God for that. All glory to Him. But I know I'm being the woman that God has called me to be. So I take that and I accept it instead of hearing it and all of a sudden those voices being like, they're just saying that to be nice. Yeah, exactly.
They really don't mean that.
Or look at this gap that's still out there that you need to accomplish. And
yes. They see the real you. It's not really, man, that he's crafty.
Yeah, absolutely.
So along that same line, you said you grew up with this sense of which your identity was in pursuit of something, standard, accomplishment, striving is the word you've used.
Yeah.
That this was you at the core. That's what you were.
Yeah.
How have you separated yourself from that? Or have you, for one? I would think the answer is
yes.
Yes. What's new identity today? What has shifted, and who are you today then?
Well, I feel like this is going to sound like a dumb answer, but I'm me. Like in the past, whenever my personality would shine through, people would say, oh, did you not take your meds?
Wow.
Or you talk too much, or you da-da-da-da. Mm-hmm. So holding to that identity, who He made me to be, I mean, I feel like, and I'm going to say this with confidence, I shine His light, that I shine His love. And so I live it out. Yeah. I want to talk to people. I want to,
so good.
I want to tell people, and I want people to feel that freedom.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So instead of this pressure inside to always be running a race.
Yes.
There's now rest in your soul.
Yes. Yeah. It's funny when I think about the schedule we're fixing to start with school starting, and the normal me would be like, I can't even do all this. I don't know how I'm going to school the boys. This is, you start out with fail.
Yep.
And you start out with, then why start? And you can't do it. But I look at it and I say, okay, God, what are we doing today?
Yeah.
What's going to be on the list?
Yeah.
And
you have real peace from God through Christ. You're at peace with your past because He's forgiven it.
That's exactly right. And I think that's a big thing, is repenting of who I was, and for being reliant on something beyond Him.
Yeah. And you're at peace with how He's made you.
Yes. Yeah.
You're not rejecting yourself anymore.
I own it and love it.
You're at peace with the future that's ahead. Yeah. You don't look at the future with panic.
No. And that is something I definitely used to be a fear and worry person. I mean, I would hear an ambulance drive by and I'd have to call my mom to make sure she was okay.
Yeah.
And, anything that happened, it was going to be a worst case scenario.
Wow.
And that's not anymore.
I get it. If there's a spirit of pressure and striving inside and unrest, that will affect every part of your life.
It does.
Your relationships, your emotions, your thoughts, your behavior, eventually your physical health.
Yes.
But when Christ brings us peace at the core, that begins to affect our emotions and our thoughts and our behavior and our physical body as well.
And not just outside, inside, my family would tell you that I'm different. I mean, the kids say, you love Jesus a lot more now than you used to.
Yeah.
And that I'm much nicer.
Yeah.
And Dave, would say I am more peaceful, and the way I respond to things is much different. So it's amazing.
It's good.
He is so good.
Yeah. So I'm sure from 1 Timothy, God has not given us a spirit of fear, but of power and of love and a sound mind. That has to speak volumes for you.
Yes. That's actually the verse that I just keep reminding in my head. That's the one I just keep going over and over again. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I don't have to strive with no hope.
That's right.
I have power.
Yeah.
I am forgiven and loved and called. I know I'm loved, and I can have a sound mind.
Yes. And that's where freedom lies.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's so good. So, bottom line, you labored under this burden of a diagnosis given to you, and maybe before that even, a diagnosis of pressure you put on yourself.
Yeah.
You believed.
I do. Yeah.
And Christ has freed that weight from you.
So good.
And it has changed you at every level.
Every level.
Yeah.
Every level.
You're still high accomplishing, high energy.
Yes.
But it's with a spirit of peace.
Yes.
Inside you.
Yes. And not exhaustion either. That's the beauty of it.
You don't go home and just crash. I mean, you go home tired, but...
Oh, I do go home tired.
Yeah, sure.
Yes.
It's good. Yeah.
But used to, even when first starting, I would go home exhausted because I just wanted to be the best. I was going to show everybody I was going to be the best at this too.
You had to prove yourself.
I had to prove myself, which is, I don't want to say it's pointless, but man, it's tiring.
It's exhausting.
It's exhausting. Yeah. And that's no way to live.
Yeah.
Because like you said, it plays out everywhere.
Yeah. Well, thank you for telling your story today.
Yeah.
Thanks for having me. This was fun.
It's very vulnerable. It's honest, but powerful in what it reveals about what God can do in our life. And we're all born with a place of need.
Yeah.
A vacancy inside, and it shows up differently. For you, it was striving.
Yes.
To achieve, to be liked by everybody.
Yes.
And when you discovered Christ has achieved for you, and He likes you.
Yes, it was almost like I was found.
Woo,
and
it's like you were lost before.
It's like I was lost. It was. I was the sheep. Yeah, I was the sheep He came back to get.
Grace.
But in my head, I was the sheep in the pack. I wasn't over here.
Wow.
I was.
Said I ain't that loser.
I ain't that loser over there. That's right. But on the inside, I was.
With the rest of them.
There you go.
Right. Yeah.
But on the inside, I was that sheep, and He came back and He saved me.
Good.
He saw me, and
it's good.
So good.
It's amazing, and I pray for that freedom for other people.
Yeah, exactly. Jesus has come to meet us in that gap for each of us, whatever it is.
Yes.
For you, it was in this area, and it showed up with ADD symptoms.
Yes.
For someone else, it's going to look completely different.
That's exactly right.
As it has for me, for Truett, and for others.
Yes.
So thank you for being willing to tell your story.
So good.
Thank you for who you are. Thank you for your work here at Vertical. It's good.
Thank you.
It's good.
I'm happy to be here.
Yeah. And I appreciate everyone joining with us today, and we encourage you to share this story. It's powerful what God can do in our lives. So we're going to keep here lifting Him up and living Him out.